An ending can make or break a film. Sometimes it plays out exactly as you think it will, following typical film tropes and basically holding up a brightly lit sign throughout that exposits exactly where things are headed. And sometimes, the ending comes completely out of left field, leaving you stunned. Not all of these endings are great, but they certainly achieved leaving audiences' mouths agape. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 WTF endings in films. Obviously, spoilers ahead. Number 1. Love Lies Bleeding. British director Rose Glass, who made quite the impression with her film debut, St. Maud, shows no sign of a sophomore slump with her second feature film, Love Lies Bleeding. The story follows Lou, played by Kristen Stewart, who's come a long way since Twilight. She manages a gym and gets romantically involved with an aspiring bodybuilder, Daisy, who's played by Katie O'Brien. O'Brien is an actress who had mostly done television roles before she landed her role as Daisy. She's also a trained martial artist and bodybuilder, making her a perfect fit for the role. Daisy is new to town, and she lands a job as a waitress at a bar run by Lou's estranged father, Ed Harris, who also runs guns across the border. While Lou and Daisy's relationship grows, Lou encourages Daisy's bodybuilding. She starts giving her steroids. Much like St. Maud, there are body horror elements and surreal grotesque scenes that are in Daisy's head. Their relationship gets rocky when Daisy, in a fit of rage, beats Lou's sister's abusive husband to death. It isn't even that event that causes a rift, it's the fact that Daisy slept with him for a job the day before she met. There's actually quite a few WTF moments in Love Lies Bleeding, as it is a rousing drama and taut thriller. The ending sees Lou confronting her father, or him confronting her, when Daisy grows to the size of a building. She picks up Lou's father, lays him down, and tears his limbs. Lou and Daisy run off together as giants. Glass definitely leaves it vague as to what actually happened though, as the final scene is just Lou and Daisy driving and dumping off a body. But you can watch Love Lies Bleeding on Max, Prime, Sling, Google Play, or Fandango. Number 2. Uncut Gems. The Safdie brothers returned in full form after directing their Robert Pattinson-led acclaimed thriller Good Time in 2017. In 2019, they delivered their cinematic gem, Uncut Gems. This film is a stylish, rousing crime thriller, but who absolutely stole the show was Hollywood superstar Adam Sandler, who gave a raw, dramatic, tour de force performance. Sandler's wheelhouse has typically been exceptionally well-cast, lowbrow comedy, and I mean that in the best way, with heart and likable characters. Not that he hasn't demonstrated dramatic flair, as you'll see that crop up even in his comedic roles. However, Sandler gave a commendable dramatic performance in 2002's Punch Drunk Love. Despite that film being received warmly by critics, it was a far cry from it being the hit he was used to starring in. Luckily, premier art house studio A24 has no qualms about taking risks, and boy did it pay off. Uncut Gems went on to be the studio's biggest hit stateside, before Everything Everywhere All at Once came along to dethrone it. Howard Rutner, played by Sandler, is a successful jewelry store owner on paper. Unfortunately, he also is in a lot of debt with a severe gambling addiction. Howard has paid to have an Ethiopian opal smuggled in for $100K after borrowing from a loan shark. The opal is supposed to be worth 10 times more than he paid. Uncut Gems is a tense game of Howard almost paying off his debts by a hair, only to have a wrench thrown into his plans. It ends with Howard, who's locked the loan sharks in his jewelry store to buy time, having placed a sizable bet and finally winning. He literally runs back to pay the loan sharks, in a blissful excitement that the audiences would have shared, only to have one of the loan sharks shoot Howard in the head. In the end, Howard may have finally won a bet, but he lost everything else, including his life. You can stream it on Tubi, Prime, Google Play, or Fandango. Number 3, The Mist. I couldn't make this list without including something from one of the masters of WTF himself, Stephen King. 2007 saw what is one of the best Stephen King adaptations to date, which is no easy feat. In the mist, a strange mist engulfs a town, and there are lethal, terrifying creatures in said mist. The story takes place primarily in a grocery store. Many people have hunkered down there to stay safe. But of course, paranoia and fear consume people, and they inevitably clash. The mist is topical today, especially in our current tumultuous political climate. The ensemble, led by Thomas Jane, play their parts superbly and emotionally. Marcia Gay Harden, who plays the deplorable religious zealot, is a constant scene stealer. Jane, who plays David Drayton, eventually escapes the store along with a group of survivors because the store becomes overrun by monsters. He realizes that none of them are going to survive this monster apocalypse, and he mercy kills them, including his very own son. As David is about to commit suicide, the army arrives for rescue as they have neutralized the threat. David comes to the realization that he will now have to live the rest of his life knowing he was mere moments away from all the survivors, including his son being saved. This is one of the most brilliant, emotional, and devastating ends to a film I have experienced that definitely make you passionately yell, "What the fuck?" It is also different than the ambiguous ending King gave in the short story, and actually applaud director Frank Darabont's end. You can check it out over on Prime, Freevee, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 4, Memento. 2000's Memento may be one of legendary director Christopher Nolan's earliest film outings, but what an impression it made. Nolan's signature aesthetic and themes are unrefined in this modern classic in the best way. Nolan has an affinity for playing with the rules of chronology to the most dramatic effect. The story of Memento is told in reverse. The main character, Leonard Shelby, played by Guy Pearce, is tracking down the murderer of his wife. Leonard's best friend, Teddy, is played by Joe Pantoliano, who was hot off of playing backstabbing Cypher in The Matrix. Leonard uses Teddy as a confidant for information. The hook is that Leonard's memory constantly resets itself because he has anterograde amnesia. So he has to leave mementos of everything he's discovered up until that point for his future self. Memento could have been a mess, but Nolan is a meticulous writer and has always been an immensely skilled director, even near the inception of his craft. For film studies majors, Memento is the perfect film to explore Eisenstein's theories of montage, as well as the Koslov effect, which essentially argues that the order in which shots are presented affects the meaning. For everyone else looking for a weighty entertainment, Memento is a hell of a trip. Technically, the chronological end of Memento is the beginning, as he takes out one of his wife's killers. However, the dramatic end, the final sequence, we find out that Leonard killed his wife's killer long ago, and Teddy has been using him for his own agenda. Take a trip down memory lane and stream it over on Peacock, Pluto, Plex, Google Play, Fandango, or Prime. Number 5, Fight Club. David Fincher is one of the greatest living film directors, and one of his most iconic films is 1999's legendary Fight Club. Though the film is now synonymous with Fincher's signature style and themes, it is actually an adaptation of Chuck Palahniuk's 1996 novel, also entitled Fight Club. Though Fincher had made box office hits like Best Picture winner Seven prior to Fight Club, his film was not a theatrical box office hit, despite being heralded by critics and the audience who saw it. However, it built a cult following and made bank in the home market as its fan base grew. Fight Club ironically fought its way to mainstream success through its biting politics about the hollowness of consumerism, as well as its topical themes regarding suppression of identity and the lies of the American dream. Fight Club follows a nameless narrator disenchanted by the superficiality of white-collar life. After meeting a soap salesman, Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt, who convinces the narrator that he needs to shed materialism and involve himself in something more visceral, they form a discreet fight club. In the end of the film, we learn Tyler Durden and the narrator are the same person with a split personality. In the reveal, Fight Club cuts to past scenes where the narrator was alone, talking to himself, with Norton also placed in scenes where Pitt was originally. The narrator created Tyler to escape the lie of the American dream. The very end sees the narrator and his love interest, played by Helena Bonham Carter, holding hands as large banking buildings blow up in the distance. WTF for sure, but in a happy way. So don't talk about it over on Sling, Google Play, or Fandango. Number 6, Old Boy. Former film critic Park Chan-wook's Korean classic film Old Boy was released to widespread critical acclaim in 2003. It's part of his The Revenge trilogy that started with 2002's Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and ended with 2005's Lady Vengeance. Old Boy is about a man, Oresu, who has been drugged, tortured, imprisoned for about 15 years now, and he's out for revenge on his captor and in search of his long-lost daughter. Along the way, he becomes enamored with a sushi chef, Mi-dong, who he even goes as far as an attempt to rape. Old Boy has been referred to as a brutal black comedy and is chock-full of astounding action sequences. Fun fact. Maybe not fun, especially for PETA. Actor Min Sing Choi, who plays Odisu, actually did eat a live squid in the sushi bar. This could have been in reference to the real Korean dish Sannakiji, in which a freshly killed octopus is served and its tentacles still writhe because of the posthumous neural activity. The director even thanked the 4 squid that gave up their life for said scene during his acceptance speech for winning the Grand Prix de Jury at Cannes in 2014. The WTF ending comes when his captor reveals that Mi-dong is actually his daughter. That's the biggest twist. Although Old Boy is a genius cinematic roller coaster with many twists and turns. You can stream it over on Netflix, Google Play, or Prime. Number 7, Saint Maud. Saint Maud was British filmmaker Rose Glass's directorial debut film that premiered at the Toronto Film Festival in 2019. Maud, who's a nurse, fails to save a patient after using CPR. She becomes a devout Catholic and palliative care nurse who has tasked herself to save the soul of her patient, Amanda. Maud is clearly dealing with some unaddressed trauma. Amanda is queer, but it's her promiscuity that Maud claims to take issue with. It's easy to say Saint Maud is addressing mental illness, as Maud is suffering from PTSD, hysteria, and hallucination. But it's more a comment on the coercive nature of dogmatic religious practices. Near the end, Maud stabs Amanda to death to save her soul. And the final scene is her dousing herself with gasoline at the beach and burning herself to purify her own soul. Now, I'm no Bible expert, but I was raised Catholic, and both murder and suicide are sins. Murder puts you in hell. Suicide places you in purgatory. So St. Maud is committing vile acts in the name of a religious text which she's not even understanding correctly. Sound familiar? Regardless, the whole ending sequence is a great cinematic WTF moment. You can catch it on Prime, Sling, MGM, Philo, Google Play, or Fandango. Number 8, Men. Director Alex Garland, the writer-director behind modern sci-fi classics like Ex Machina and Annihilation, whose career was launched writing the now zombie classic 28 Days Later, gave us the controversial A24 film Men in 2022. The film follows the events of Harper, played by Jessie Buckley, whose husband recently committed suicide from falling from a window and being impaled on a fence. The story is a piecemeal of flashbacks and symbolism for toxic masculinity. Men argues that toxic masculinity isn't just traumatizing, but that it's also contagious, even in women. Harper isn't just feeling grief, but guilt, because she wanted to divorce her late husband. She sees every man as her late husband. Literally. All the men she encounters are played by Rory Kinnear. Elements like this are important because it's a reminder that this film is from Harper's perspective, thus a window or tunnel into her bias. While toxic masculinity may be alive and well, she is unable to let go due to the trauma it has caused. She is both a victim and a perpetrator of its effects. The ending is a horrifying bout of body horror brilliance. In blunt display of symbolism, every character that Buckley played gives birth to himself. It's saying simply, toxic masculinity breeds toxic masculinity. Garland hints in the final scene that this may not have been in Harper's head. So catch it on Max, Prime, Google Play, or Fandango and let me know your thoughts. Number 9, The Borderlands. Not to be confused with Eli Roth's attempt to adapt the acclaimed Borderlands video game or 2007's After Dark film Borderland. The Borderlands is a 2013 British found footage film. The Borderlands was released in the US as Final Prayer, and that's how it's listed on streaming services if you are stateside. The film follows a trio assigned to investigate a claim of paranormal activity for the Vatican at a reopened 13th century church. Reports have come in of supernatural phenomena, and the protagonists, Deacon, Gary, and Mark, are hoping to capture more evidence on film. They're a skeptic, a techie, and a Catholic father. The personality clashes make for a dynamic ripe with organic drama as they dissect the nature of supernatural captured on tape. The Borderlands is director Elliot Goldner's first feature film that debuted at London Fright Fest Film Festival and would be well received and lauded for its twists. Throughout the protagonist's investigation process of the church, Deacon and Gary eventually discover a set of secret underground tunnels, as well as altars for pagan rituals. They get lost and trapped, attempting to find their way through the narrow concrete labyrinth. In the final scene, they are aghast to when said tunnel becomes a slimy digestive tract. Their skin starts bubbling and melting as they are corroded by gastric acids of some sort. The church has been built on some sort of insidious entity in which Deacon and Gary are now being digested. Knowing this, The Borderlands is good for a rewatch because they drop quite a few hints into a living entity that you might otherwise write off. If you are in the USA, you will find The Borderlands under Final Prayer on Tubi, Prime, Google Play, or Fandango. Number 10, Raw. 2016's French film Raw was Julia Ducournau's debut film. She so far has made one other film, another offbeat body horror cult film, Titan, which I also recommend checking out for more WTFs. Both films are unfiltered, subject matter and gore-wise, with vibrant color palettes. Raw is about the ritualistic process of being initiated into a new place. In Raw's case, it's the protagonist, Justine, assimilating into veterinary school. Justine is a strict vegetarian, and conflict first arises when one of the hazing rituals sees her having to eat rabbit kidneys. Another hazing of the interns has her and other interns bathed in animal blood a la Carrie. Justine develops a rash as well as a taste for meat, even though it embarrasses her. At one point, she even gorges on raw chicken. Her transition into cannibalism is complete when her roommate accidentally loses a finger, and Justine impulsively eats said finger. Throughout the film, moments of ravenous take over as she nibbles, quite literally, in the throes of passion. Cannibalism takes on a kind of central role in Raw. In the end, we learn that her hunger for human flesh was inherited from her mother. That's why Justine was encouraged to be a vegetarian in the first place. In the final scene, Justine's father reveals scars on his body that were from her mother occasionally having a nibble. You can indulge it on Prime, Google Play, or Fandango. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. We're also now on Blue Sky. You can find us at studiosfat.bsky.social, which we'll also link below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again. See you in the next one.